Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Schwa Mill. We're here and every single Saturday at this time. We work to craft your accent, taking a look at your American English pronunciation and giving suggestions to help you sound the most natural in American English when you talk. How's everyone doing today? Give me some love in the comments. Let me know in the chat box. Let me know what you've been up to, what's happening this weekend. Also have some questions up for you guys right now. Let me know how many episodes of the Schwa Mill you have seen. And in fact, if you want to be more specific, you can tell me in the comments. And additionally, I would love to know, what is your pronunciation goal this week? If you don't have a pronunciation goal, maybe take a listen to some of these and you can apply them to yourself and let me know which one you choose. So, for instance, if you don't have a pronunciation goal this week, then maybe one goal is I'd like you, the next time that you speak in English, I'd like you to use the word quit with a short I sound, like, oh, I quit doing something, something like that. I want you to use quit. Make sure you're not saying quit. Or another goal could be every day this week, I want you to study pronunciation for 5 minutes. Don't care if you get better, don't care if you get worse, but just put in the time, do that 5 minutes. Let me know if you think of some other goals that you think would be helpful to have. You can tell me. Emmanuel says short I linking with the N, just practice saying short I with the N. So, for instance, Emmanuel, I would like you to use the word in. The next time you talk to someone, I want you to use the word in 3 times with that short I sound. Okay. Hello also to Emmanuel. Great to see you, sir. Hello also to Shok checking in as well. And hello also to Bologna. Are you from Italy? Or should I say Bologna? Or are you just using the meat? Are we talking about the city or the meat? Keep me posted. But great to see you. I don't recognize your name, so it's great to have you here. Hopefully you sent us some audio. But maybe you haven't. Maybe you're like, audio? I can send audio here? That can happen? Jeff can look at my pronunciation. Mine? How? It's during a live stream. Well, let's talk about the steps to do that. Hello, also to Cena checking in. It's been a minute. Great to see you. Hope you're getting ready to enjoy your holiday season. Great to see you. So yes, you can actually send in your own audio. In fact, that's what we're going to be doing today. Let me kind of share my screen and walk you through the process, let you know how things work around here. So that way we can get you situated pronunciation wise. All right, so you see, this is our magical document. Ooh, I need to get like a sound effect that does that. Um, but this is our document. So what happens here is people can send me their pronunciation files. And when they do that, fortunately, it's not letting me zoom in, so I have to do it manually. Okay, so you can see here, people have sent in these like links. People have put their names. People have put in the text of what they say. That's helpful for me because sometimes when listening to files, I just don't always have. Sometimes I get confused. Sometimes I want to make sure I'm hearing everything you're saying correctly, the way that you want me to hear it. So that's why it's really helpful to write the text, although not necessary to. Also, if you have any specific pronunciation questions, you can write those. But once you actually do that, or if you want to send in your own link, excuse me, you're going to notice at the top it says go to vocaboo.com. What is vocaboo.com? Vocaboo.com is a website. It looks like this. The first time that you log in, you might just see like a big fat red record button. I want you to press that. Then record yourself saying some sort of sentence. If you're not sure what to say, that's okay too. You're going to notice I have posted a link under option 1, which is some common idioms and expressions. So you can feel free to use one of those. But once you've done that, you can record yourself and then you can copy it and put it into. Well, but actually, what you'll need to do after you record yourself, you'll be able to save it. It's going to get this link. You copy this link, you paste it in here, and that works. And we'll be able to see it. So I'm excited to hear your audio files. If you're a lurker and you just kind of want to stay in the background, unnoticed, anonymous like, that's okay too. But I hope that eventually you work up the courage to, one, say hi in the chat. So if you're watching this and you've never said hello to me before, it'll be great to say hi. Or if you're watching this in the replay, same thing. Or if you're watching this in the podcast, same thing. Or listening, I should say. But it'd be great to hear everybody because your audio is beneficial to everyone. Everyone is doing different things, but everyone's also kind of doing the same thing. People are having kind of the same pronunciation issues, no matter what your level is. So any audio you send us is helpful for everybody, I promise you. By not speaking, you're not helping anyone, including yourself, but including all of us as well. Other things about sending audio, I think that kind of gets the basics. See, this says that they're glad to see us too. She's been busy, but great to be here. That's wonderful. Okay, Bologna. She's from Albania. Actually, or he or she. Is it a he or she? From Albania. Actually, when I used to live in Perugia e ho avuto un coinquilino che veniva dall'Albania. But that was some time ago. So that's great. Very common experience. Lots of Albanians living in Italy. I hope you're enjoying London. And again, Shok's challenge is speaking with pitches. Super, super understandable. We'll be talking a lot about pitches today. Let me see. Sita says, Jeff, it's very difficult for me to have perfect sounds while using contractions like can't, don't, didn't, shouldn't, couldn't. One thing that grazie Bologna. One thing with contractions is that a lot of times the contraction is not the stressed word. So what it can be the stressed word, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times when you're using contractions, there's also usually a base verb after them, right? So usually the base verb gets the stress. So, I don't want to say that you don't want your contractions to sound good, but a lot of times they're very reduced. Like if you say something like, "Oh, I can't go, sorry." Well, that can't's really weak, right? Or if you say like don't leave, don't leave. That emphasis again is on don't. It's not really on. I mean, the emphasis really is on leave. It's not on don't, right? Don't leave, don't leave. You're emphasizing leave. So a lot of times with contractions, it's less important to get the contraction right, and especially important to get the whatever comes after it correct. Just a note. But yeah, this is just a tip on that. But I think that's a great goal. We have videos and things also talk about contractions too. But if there are some specific contractions you would like me to say today to help you out with your practice, be sure to let me know. Trying to think of other things. Oh, we'll be talking about some different opportunities we have out there to practice pronunciation outside of the Schwa Mill, because I think you guys will get lots of great help today. I'm excited to give you some feedback. But we'll save those for a little bit later. Just want to take a quick look again at our poll. How many episodes have people seen of the Schwa Mill? Let me know. Put in your votes in the chat. Right now, it's equally split between first-timers, 4 and 10 episodes, and 11 episodes. So we got a great mix of people here. That is wonderful. Okay, I think I've gone through my whole spiel. I believe now then it is time to listen to your pronunciation files. So let's get into it. Oh, let me add myself there, right? Again, it's not little, it's more little.
The G host was class.
Are you feeling that here, or here? I have changed, though maybe you didn't really notice. I have put on my headphones, that way I will be able to hear your audio files and give suggestions, and I will also share my screen, so you'll be able to hear things as well. Give me a moment. And Emmanuel notes that you didn't see an option for 50 plus episodes in the poll, because Emmanuel he's like a lifer. He keeps coming back for more, and that's great. That is great. And Sita notes that she will pay attention to stress on the words that come after those contractions when speaking. That is definitely something I would recommend doing. I think it's going to be really helpful for you. Okay, let's share my screen, share my audio, and kind of get into things, because that's what you guys are really here for, right? Okay, so again, here is our document. I've loaded up everyone's files. So again, I think we'll have plenty of time to get through these, but there is also time if you want to send in a pronunciation file to do so. I'm trying to always remember to do timestamps to watch in the replay. So I've now added a column to try to remind myself of that. See I got 10 seconds, 10 seconds. People are sent long files today. Okay, 10 seconds, 12 seconds, 5 seconds. Okay, let's start off maybe with this 5-second file. Kind of see how things are going. Who is this?
Park the car in our yard.
Okay, I'll play it one more time.
Park the car in our yard.
Okay, I think I have some great suggestions for this one. So I believe it was this file. I think that if you didn't have the text for this, I could see some people have understanding this. Okay. Hello to Oscar. Thank you for checking in. Hope you enjoyed the stream. If you want to send us some audio files and things, check in the video description to send your file, or you can also go to this link earlier in the chat to send your own pronunciation. Okay. But again, this is the actual sentence. Bit of a tricky one. Where are we in the stream? So in terms of time, we are at 10:43. Timestamps for later in case you're watching on the replay. Trying to help you out. Let's listen to this again.
Park the car in our yard.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually good. I don't think they actually said at Harvard Yard. I feel like I heard like in, like park the car in Harvard Yard. But let's take a moment to look at the first part.
Park the car.
Do you hear that kind of like stop? It's like park the car, like park the car, park the car, park the car. So we kind of end up with a sentence that feels a little bit choppy. So we're not necessarily getting that breath to kind of flow from one part to the next. You might have heard that. Play that again.
Park the car.
Park the car, park the car. So there, it does feel like we're adding a vowel sound in between park and the. So it's like park the car, park the car,
Park the car.
park the car. So one thing I'm immediately going to recommend is trying to link that just a little bit more. So instead of park the car, this is something that happens in English. In English, you can join consonants together. Okay, consonant clusters are very common without adding a vowel sound. This is a common tendency. Not saying that your first language is a Romance language, but this is something you see a lot with Romance languages. So, for instance, if you're an Italian speaker here, or a Romanian speaker here, maybe there's one, Spanish speakers, things like that. Just making sure we're not adding vowel sounds in between consonants.
Park the car.
Like park the car, park the. That's generally how you're going to be more likely to hear it heard. Park the car, park the car. So what's happening is I'm holding that K sound. It's like I'm instead of saying park, I'm saying park, park. And what I'm doing is I'm tightening my throat so that way air cannot release. Park, park, instead of saying park. And then after I hold it, you can then go to a TH. Park the car, park the car. And that way it just helps link it. So this is a very common thing. Some other examples of this. So for instance, like if you hear like pop music, it's not pop music. Another common example, especially for instance, like Spanish speakers, a word, for instance, like school that starts with an S, making sure you're not saying school. That's also a big thing for Portuguese speakers as well, because just kind of something to pay attention to. Emmanuel notes, our resident Romanian. I don't have the issue. Yeah, kind of just pulling your leg. This is definitely something I hear more from, especially Portuguese speakers and Italian speakers, depending on the combination of words, and Spanish speakers, Italian and Portuguese. Not as much with Romanian. That is a good point. I'm just messing with you. But other things that are kind of going on with this sentence here. Where did I put the sentence so you guys can see it once more?
Park the car in our yard.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm hearing in instead of at. Hello also to Elchin checking in. Elchin is just doing such great progress. If he sends us an audio file, I encourage you to hear some of his audios from when he first joined us. A lot of his consonants tend to be kind of heavy, but he's just adding so much more breath. He's also getting his placement a little bit lower. So it's really sounding smooth, smooth, smooth. That's what we like. We're smooth talkers here. Great to be with you again, sir. Ask me how's it going? We're going, man. Not too bad. It's not terribly cold outside. It's probably like, I don't know, maybe like 7 degrees outside. So not terribly cold, which is nice. We'll take it. Hope you guys are doing okay as well. Hello also to Lynn checking in again from the Midwest. Hope you're staying warm. Where she's at in the US can get very cold and lots of snow. Thanks to you, Elchin. Thanks to Sita being that nice. Sita's that nice, like she just like welcomes everybody. She's like, "Oh, hey, good to see you." Love that. Love that energy. Other things though, let's Let's take a look at the second half of this sentence.
Park the car in Harvard Yard.
In Harvard Yard. Harvard Yard. So it sounds like you're stressing Harvard.
The car in Harvard Yard.
In Harvard Yard. In Harvard Yard.
Park the car in Harvard Yard.
Yeah, definitely sounds like you're stressing yard. Actually, let me rephrase that.
Park the car in Harvard Yard.
In Harvard Yard.
Park the car in Harvard Yard.
In Harvard Yard. I would reduce Harvard a little bit more because it almost sounds like it's getting a little bit stressed. Park the car in Harvard Yard. Park the car in Harvard Yard. So I would really try to get that stress on yard to stand out. But this kind of leads to actually probably one of the largest potential issues. Like, again, I would like your sentences, this is for everybody, I would like your sentences to be said in a way that, like, if you just pulled someone like off the street and just said the sentence to them, that they would understand everything you said, even if there was no context. And I feel like with this sentence, it would be a little bit difficult to do that. I feel like you would have to say it 2 or 3 times for your listener to really understand what you're saying. And the reason for that is because I feel like there's not enough contrast. You're kind of giving me the same pitch over and over again.
Park the car in Harvard Yard.
Your "the" goes down. Park the car in Harvard Yard. In Harvard Yard. So you're maybe giving me like a range of like maybe 3 or 4 pitches, as opposed to, could you give me like 4 or 5 pitches instead, or maybe even 5 or 6? Like maybe context is always helpful. So like maybe your friend is asking like, "Hey, where can I park?" And you'd be like, "Oh, park the car at Harvard Yard." Like, park the car at Harvard Yard. So like go higher on park. Like, park the car at Harvard Yard. Park the car at Harvard Yard. Park the car at Harvard Yard. Just by doing that, so the words you're really going to have the highest pitches on are probably going to be park and yard. Everything else you kind of want, I would recommend having like a falling, like keep lowering the pitch, like a series of steps. Park the car at Harvard Yard. Park the car at Harvard Yard. Something like that is going to be a little bit easier to understand. So I would really recommend adding some contrast with your pitches, because I think that's going to help so much with comprehensibility. Last things here.
Park the car in Harvard Yard.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's going to have the biggest influence. Honestly, those things that we mentioned about linking and about pitches. Okay. Thank you so much for sending this file. It's great to hear from you. I hope that you can send us files in future streams as well. I think that was from Morrison. Great to have you. Elchin has sent us a file. It's a file about cold weather. How appropriate is that? Excited to hear that. Okay. Keeping an eye on our poll as well. If you guys have not answered our poll, please do. I'm very curious. How many episodes of the Schwa Mill have you seen? And first timers. That's great. First timers are leading the way, 38%, followed by equally 4 to 10 people and people who have seen 11 plus episodes. Let us know. Also, things I am curious about. I am curious to know, what is your pronunciation goal this week? I saw a couple of people's goals, but I'd like to know more. Elchin, what's your pronunciation goal this week? Lynn, what's your pronunciation goal this week? Keep me posted. If you don't have a goal, tell me and I will give you one. There's lots of things we could say. I've missed a couple things in the chat, so I just want to kind of check on things. See the notes that Brazilian people like to welcome. Oh yeah, for sure. Especially when I was at a language center, man, there were some classes. I would have a class that was full of like Saudi Arabians and like Jordanians. Then I would have another class that was full of like Brazilians. Then I have another class that was full of like Japanese and Chinese students. And man, the differences in group dynamics are so interesting. I would say, like, if I could do like an ideal like language classroom, like something that I think would be beneficial for everyone. Like, I feel like having a class with a couple of Brazilians, a couple of Japanese people, a couple of Saudi Arabians, like that, and also a couple like Chinese or Koreans, like that's such a great mix, because the energy just really helps everyone. And yet other people are, kind of super focused on grammar. Other people are super focused on just talking, not really caring about like the grammar stuff. Some people are more focused on like the vocab in general. Like, so it's just that sort of mix usually does very, very well in a classroom setting in terms of getting everyone involved. and things like that. Bringing me back to my days when I was at a language center. Moving on to our next file. Oh, and Elchin also asks, I appreciate this, Elchin. Did someone already remind me of timestamps? I started. Look, I did one. I can show you. Hang on. I have proof. I was good today. I promise. I behaved. Maybe that's a little small. Hang on. Let me make it a little bigger. Appreciate that. So you can see I did that little timestamp, right? My Google Doc's not wanting to cooperate today. I'll have to zoom in manually. There we go. Zoom down. I've done a timestamp. I did one. I did good. I deserve applause for that because I'm doing the work. I am doing the work today. All right. Let us see who next. We have an 8-second file here. So Elchin's proud of me. Yes. Appreciate that. Elchin, what's your goal this week? What's your pronunciation goal this week, man? Send me one. I am curious. Let me make sure I'm sharing my audio. So let's take a listen and see who this is.
I understand what you're saying and your comments are valuable, but I'm gonna ignore your advice.
What a great guy. I like this. A round of applause for Jeff. Yes. A round of applause for doing the thing. That's what we do. Hello, also to Zabeta checking in. Always great to see you, miss. And Elchin has also sent us their goal. And if you have not told me your goal and you're watching on the replay, put it in the comments. And if you're live with me right now, put it in the chat. So Beta, tell me, what is your language goal this week? What's your pronunciation goal this week? I'm very curious. But Elchin says, honestly, first I want to solve the problem with the dark L. So in case you're not sure, dark L is making sure when you have an L at the end of a word, like in a word like trouble or like level, make sure you're not doing like trouble or level, make sure you're getting more trouble, level. It's almost like treating your L sound more like a vowel. So he wants to work on dark L's, then practicing TH sounds, some other consonants. Then I hope to work on pitch. Oh my gosh, Elchin is super, super busy this week. Super, super busy. My God. And also Rumeza checking. Everyone's coming out of the woodwork today. That's great. It's great to see you, Rumeza. Great to have you, miss. Rumeza, we're talking about our language goals this week. What is your pronunciation goal? If you can't think of one, let me know, and I will tell you. I'll give you one. I'm happy to give assignments. I love to give people assignments. Going back to... the file was the 8-second one. This was the file.
I understand what you're saying and your comments are valuable, but I'm gonna ignore your advice.
So this is the file that we just heard. Okay. Rumeza's one goal is to survive. That's facts. Okay, I think I will accept. I will accept this goal. I accept. Some suggestions for this file.
I understand what you're saying and your comments are valuable, but I'm gonna ignore your advice.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
I understand what you're saying.
Although so first things first, I think your placement's a little high. It sounds a little nasal, like I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Versus like a lower placement would be like, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. One thing you can immediately try doing too, because it sounds to me like you're doing a lot of projection from your lungs as opposed to from your diaphragm. Okay, so the very first thing you can try doing is take a big breath in, and then on the exhale, try to feel your diaphragm relaxing as you talk, and you try to get that breath going out. It's like, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. So see if you can compare. First time I'm going to really project from my lungs, and the second time I'm going to project more from my stomach. So I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. It's like just kind of comparing those. So that's going to be my first suggestion in terms of lowering placement.
I understand what you're saying.
Another thing that is kind of tied to what we just said, but it's slightly different too, is just pitches. Again, you're kind of giving me the same range of pitches over. I understand what you're saying. Part of the problem is you're kind of stressing understand, and you're also stressing saying. And so the result of that is that you're limiting your possibilities for range, because as soon as you go down a little bit, you also need to go back up. And so what I would recommend is trying to maybe just pick one stress. Like, maybe just understand. I understand what you're saying. Like, look, I understand what you're saying. Or, look, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. So I think you could either stress saying or you could stress understand, but I would recommend instead of stressing both, I would just pick one. And I see Emmanuel has also asked about reductions, but more importantly, Elchin asked about the World Cup. Anyone watch that Morocco game? I was not surprised by Brazil. I'm sorry for the Brazilian national team, but they seem cursed at like I was like, Brazil's gonna lose in some really disappointing fashion, and then they lose in pretty disappointing fashion. So I was not super surprised by that at all. I didn't watch the game; I just saw the score. But yeah, I would be, hey man, if Morocco went all the way, or if Croatia went all the way, I'd be okay. I see that. I see that. I'd kind of be disappointed. Like if England went all the way, I'd be kind of disappointed because I'm like, the U.S. could have beat that team. I'm just saying. But Emmanuel asks, can you say what you're like? What's your understand what you're saying? Yeah, you can certainly reduce what you're to like what's your yeah. So I definitely think that's a possibility. Ocean commenting on Morocco. Fittingly. Going back, I understand what you're saying.
Your comments are valuable.
I want to hear that V sound on valuable a little bit.
And your comments are valuable.
Similar thing here about pitches and stress. You're kind of using, again, a lot of stresses, which I don't think we necessarily need all of them. Your comments are valuable. You're never giving yourself a chance to kind of expand your pitches because everything is so tight together. Your comments are valuable versus your comments are valuable. I understand what you're saying, and your comments are valuable. Something like that would just add a lot more contrast and also increase the range of pitches that you're using. Like, I understand what you're saying, and your comments are valuable, and your comments are valuable. So this is just going to help again with comprehensibility. It's going to make it much easier for people to listen to you and hear what you're saying. In addition to that, on valuable,
and your comments are valuable.
Almost feel like a W sound, like valuable. Just try and get slightly firmer contact. Let me zoom in on myself so you can kind of see me. Although it's all going to be kind of into my mouth, so you probably won't even see it super well. But you want your top tooth making a little firmer contact on your bottom lip there. It's like are valuable. And your comments are valuable. You don't want like a super strong V. It's not our value, because you don't want to change your placement. You don't want it to make your vowels too tense, but definitely can make your V a little bit stronger. Not be opposed to that. In addition to that, and your comments are valuable. And we talked about pitches.
Comments are valuable, but I'm gonna ignore your advice.
I'm going to ignore your advice. But I'm going to ignore your advice. I'm going to ignore your advice. I'm going to ignore your advice.
But I'm gonna ignore your advice.
But I'm going to ignore your advice. So that's how you're saying it. But I'm going to ignore your advice. And your comments are valuable. I'm going to ignore your advice. I would, this pattern to me sounds very common, just kind of working with my Mandarin speak. I don't know if Mandarin's your first language or not, but this sounds a lot like my Mandarin speaking students, this pattern.
So valuable. But I'm gonna ignore your advice.
But I'm gonna, so I would think I would go a little higher pitch, but I'm gonna ignore your advice. But I'm gonna ignore your advice. But I'm gonna ignore your advice. And your comments are valuable, but I'm gonna ignore your advice. I would play around with that high pitch there on I'm. But I'm going to ignore your advice because, again, something that we're generally seeing with students. Students aren't really using a lot of those high pitches or those low pitches, and I think that's something that would be very common. Help this sound more natural.
So valuable, but I'm gonna ignore your advice.
I would also say,
but I'm gonna ignore your advice.
Ignore your. Try to link that together a little bit more and say ignore your. More. Ignore your.
Valuable, but I'm gonna ignore your advice.
Ignore your advice. That's kind of the way you're saying it. Ignore your advice versus ignore your advice. Ignore your advice. Notice that you're taking down, down, down. Ignore your advice. Ignore your advice. So we kind of want this to be a little bit more linked. We also want this in terms of pitch patterns. I think it's going to be a little bit more natural in terms of what you would be more likely to hear.
But I'm gonna ignore your advice.
Ignore your advice. Ignore your advice. So it's not advice. It's more advice. Advice. You want to make sure vice is a little lower pitched than that. Other things here that could be helpful.
What you're saying and your comments are valuable.
I want to hear saying.
I understand what you're saying and
Saying. Watch out for NG sounds versus N sounds. I feel like I'm hearing saying versus saying. So make sure the back of your tongue is high and the front of your tongue is down. Might be good to review NGs versus Ns. It's like versus It's like thing versus thin, or like sing versus sin, things like that. So watch out for that sound.
your comments are valuable.
Valuable. Your bull sound is a little bit tense, so you're really blocking off air. We talked about dark L's a little earlier, so you want more of a bull, so bull, more ba. Front of your tongue down. You can open your mouth a little bit wider. Ba.
But I'm gonna ignore your advice.
And then we talked about linking and things like that for that last part. I hope all that is helpful. Great to hear from you. Hope to have your audio in future streams as well. And let me know if these comments are helpful for you. All right, great audio to hear. Gonna stop sharing just for a moment. I know I missed some things in the chat. Let's see what's going on. Here's his goal. So beta's goal. I don't have weekly goals. I have a long-term routine. I like that. I don't have a weekly goal. I have a long-term routine. In a lot of ways, that's I think that can be a lot more helpful. Just something you get into the habit of doing. I think that's great. I was shouting if anything I was listening to the whole week. It would be my weekly. Hey, that is a weekly goal. Shadow every day. Even shadowing for like 2 minutes every day. What I often tell students, if you only have 1 hour to study English this week, it would be better to do like 10 minutes every day than to do 1 hour once a week. This consistency over quantity, just trying to do the regular practice, just showing up. That's kind of the phrase in English. Just show up. Just be there. If it goes badly, great. If it goes great, great. But just show up. Do the work. Let me see what else is going on. Emmanuel noted a voice. Yeah, again, we kind of mentioned those V sounds could be a little stronger in that previous audio. I think that's very fair. Okay. Zobeda asked, Jeff, what's the phrasal verb that means supporting a team? Emmanuel recommends rooting for, and that's a great option. Rooting for or root for. Another thing is like to be a fan of, like, oh, I'm a fan of a team, or they're my team. Or saying like I'm a blank fan. Things like that. If I think of some other ones, I'll definitely let you know. And yeah, just kind of keeping an eye out again on our poll. I want more votes, guys. How many episodes of the Schwa Mill have you seen? First timers are now at 50% of all respondents. Oh my gosh. So many first timers. Great to have you here. Please stop by again. And if you're feeling especially brave, you can send us some audio files and things. But I do also kind of just want to highlight some opportunities, and we have some very, very, very exciting news. So guys, you can see this along the bottom in the ticker, but we have a program called Mission English where if you like this, but you want to actually appear on screen with me, like there's me here, but you want to be over there, that can actually happen. In fact, there can be 3 or 4 of us on screen, even more potentially. And we do pronunciation exercises together. You can ask me questions. I give you feedback live. And we do this every single day in a program called Mission English. And kind of just want to show you just a quick trailer of what that's like and then talk about it a little bit more. Heads up, sometimes the audio comes in a little bit hot, but just kind of want to show you a quick trailer of what this looks like.
Ooh, ooh. Notice that for me, I'm not really having that ooh, ooh. And it doesn't sound exactly the same, like ooh and ooh, but they're close enough that for the speech that you're doing in daily life, it'll be okay. Really nice day.
Really nice day.
So what I'm hearing, so I heard really nice day. So what happened was you put day at a lower pitch. Really nice day.
Just nice.
Okay. I would say, I thought for the most part it sounded pretty good. I think there were a couple words that we do want to watch out for a little bit. Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, there you go. That last one's great.
So one of the things that you may have seen in that trailer was that you're guaranteed. You sign up. It's currently $30 a month. You sign up, and you get access to 18 classes. But the real news is that in January, we're growing. We're doing even more. In fact, I am boosting this up. So there's going to be opportunities to study with me in these private group classes twice a day. Each class is a half hour long. And we're doing different time zones as well. So hopefully you live in a place where at least one of these times works out for you. I hope. So for instance, maybe 1:30 p.m. New York time works best for you. Well, then you can meet with me on Monday. You can meet again on Tuesday, and then you can meet me again on Friday. Or maybe you need that evening time in New York. So maybe that 8 o'clock p.m. on Monday, that 8 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday, and then that 8 o'clock p.m. on Thursday would be a great opportunity for you. But again, 3 times for each of these different spots. Okay, so hopefully we can meet. And in fact, if multiple times work for you, you want to work with me in the morning, you want to work with me in the afternoon, and you want to work with me in the evening, I mean, hey, we can do that too. That's fine. Join me. All of this is available at fluentamerican.com/Mission English. And also as a bonus, if you sign up between now and the end of December, so I think was it December 31st, 11:59 p.m. If you sign up before then, you can get a free class with me as long as you bring in another friend, and then your friend will get a free class with me too. And that's an individual class. So that's something we're doing. Happy Friendsgiving, folks. It would be great to work with you. In fact, we have several members already here in our Mission English as well. So if you have questions, you can always ask them too. But it would be great to work with you in our group sessions. And if you have questions about that, be sure to let me know. Manuel said he is excited for January. Yeah, man. I am too, because there's so much fun, because I never know what we're going to talk about. And it's always great. Okay. She has to answer this question every week. Fair. That is very fair. Okay, we're going to be closing our initial poll this week. Also going to be asking a new question. Keep an eye out on the question. What's the question that I have for you guys? What is a pronunciation challenge for you right now? Take a look. I'm adding a question to our question in the chat. So I would love to know, what is a pronunciation challenge that you have right now? I'm typing away on my keyboard. Okay. Be great to know your answers for that. What is a pronunciation challenge that you have right now? Take a look and answer that for me. Or you can also post it in the chat. I would love to know what your pronunciation challenge is right now that you're kind of focusing on. All right, let's take a look at another pronunciation file, shall we? And I will remember to do a timestamp, because I do that sometimes. I sometimes remember to do a timestamp. Let's see. Who's this?
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code.
Okay, sounds like Sycamore. I'm not wrong. And by the way, guys, if you're joining us for the first time, please tell me. So here's the sentence from what we're just hearing now. Actually, I need to do a quick water break, but if you want to help me out on this specific stream, just a quick note. Like what you're hearing, let us know by liking and subscribing. All right, let's take a listen to this again.
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code. Now he wants to go to the next level and become a manager. However, he never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this.
Okay, Sycamore, I like this. It sounds like it's being read. It sounds like we are reading from a script. So I want to kind of give you some tips to how can we make this sound like it's not being read. Okay. So Beta notes too that her challenge is the breath. That's a great one. Something I think everyone can work on a little bit. Just trying to add more breath to your speech. Try not to close off your throat. Very common experience. Let's take a listen to this one again and kind of break it into smaller parts. Oh, I did not write a timestamp, did I? We're at 39:14. As soon as I mentioned I was going to do timestamps, and I didn't do it. My God.
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code.
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code. Again, right now, the way it's being read, it just kind of sounds a little neutral.
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code.
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code. He has a lot of experience writing complicated code.
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code.
Code. So go a little lower on code, writing complicated code. A lot of experience writing complicated code. I would just go a touch lower on code. So I want to give a quick shout out to Edward, our resident British English expert. Not self-proclaimed, we call him that. Great to see you, Edward.
He has a lot of experience.
I would have gone heavy stress on lot. He has a lot of experience. He has a lot of experience in writing complicated code. He has a lot of experience writing complicated code. So that's something I would take a look at there, because lot is one of those words in English that when you see it appear, it very, very, very commonly receives stress. Very, very commonly.
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code.
That pattern that you have right now, he has a lot of experience writing complicated. He has a lot of experience. Not the most common pattern.
He has a lot of experience writing.
He has a lot of experience. He has a lot of experience, or he has a lot of experience. Usually you would expect either lot to go a little higher in pitch or experience to go higher in pitch. Instead of kind of a lot of experience, kind of bouncing between them, that pattern is not as common.
Experience writing complicated code.
That's a lot of experience writing complement code.
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code.
Notice you read it okay. I'm not hearing that in, which is good. You don't want the in. You don't need experience in writing. You just say experience writing. You just go right from that. Experience to writing. But in addition to that, he has a lot of experience writing complicated code. I would personally read it like that. He has a lot of experience writing complicated code. Lot of experience writing complicated codes. Like, notice everything is kind of shifting down. Everything shifts down. Lot of experience writing complicated code. He has a lot of experience writing complicated code. Just a note. Edward says he doesn't deserve that compliment. I disagree. Wholeheartedly disagree. Other things, though, going on in this file.
He has a lot of experience writing complicated code. Now he wants to go to the next level and become a manager.
Become a manager. Go hire a manager. Become a manager. I would stress manager. Become a manager. Something needs to stand out more. You don't have to stress manager. That's just what I would do. But whatever words you want to stress, give it a higher pitch, because it's just everything's sounding so neutral.
Now he wants to go to the next level.
Listen to level.
He wants to go to the next level and
level. Feels like your placement is going a little high on that last L. It's also, as always, would recommend probably more of a dark L. Instead of next level, more next level. Now he wants to go to next level. So again, just note my dark L sound a little bit more open. I think would be helpful.
Now he wants to go to the next level and become a manager.
Become a manager. I just want something to stand out more. All these pitches are kind of staying in that kind of neutral, flat range.
Now he wants to go to the next level and become a manager. However,
I like that last R sound on manager, just a note.
Next level and become a manager.
Manager. Good. R can be such a tricky sound, especially at the end of a word, but I like this. It stays open enough. Doesn't come overly stressed.
However, he never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this.
Okay.
The next level and become a manager. However, he never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this.
She's really looking forward to it. I would have stressed forward. She's really looking forward to this. However, he never asked his wife. She's really looking forward to this. Really looking forward to this. Also, pitches again at the end. It's just saying a little bit flat.
However, he never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this.
Really looking forward to this. Really looking forward to this. Oh, you could have gone way lower on this. Forward to this. Forward to this. Forward to this. So again, I personally would stress forward. You could also stress never. He never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this. He never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this. That's personally how I would read it. So I think you can get away with two stresses here. I personally would stress never and forward. You could do other words too. Okay. But I would again, my biggest suggestion would be choose two words here and make them really stand out pitch wise. Go higher. Besides that, though, other things.
Next level and become a manager. However, he never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this.
Never asked his wife.
Level and become a manager. However, he never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this.
Want to hear really again?
Become a manager. However, he never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this.
She's really looking. Really looking.
However, he never asked his wife if she's really looking forward to this.
Yeah, that's okay. There was one part.
And become a manager. However, he never asked his wife.
Never asked his wife. I really like however. Let's listen to this however.
Go to the next level and become a manager. However,
However, notice how weak the V is. It's not however, it's a really light V. However, that's again the goal that you want in American English is not letting consonant sounds take over. You want to make sure that the vowel sounds are kind of the part where you're emphasizing. So I really, I like how you did that there. Yeah, so my big suggestions are just kind of like more stress related, pitch related, and things like that. Sycamore, if you have any questions for me about anything there, be sure to let me know. But thank you for sending that file as always. We can't do this without you guys. Cannot do this without you. Quick comments here. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. That's right. Everyone's entitled to their wrong opinion. No, I'm just kidding. Go and check out Oscar. Oscar says their challenge is to be clear when I use contractions because I'm not sure if I'm being understood. So I prefer don't use reductions to be as clear as possible. But it makes me sound so I'm so glad you brought this point up. This is a super common experience. Most likely if you're watching this stream, this might not be true for everybody. I'm guessing though that for the majority of people watching this, you already speak English at a high level. You already can probably say most everything you need to say and people will understand you. Okay. The things that have gotten you to your current level though are not the same things that are going to take you to the next level, in all honesty. Because you're playing it too safe. Most likely you've been so focused on clarity and being understood, and that's worked up to this point. But if your goal is to really get that natural native like sound, we need to start embracing the very things that make us sound less clear and less articulate. It's like contractions. We need to use contractions more. Like saying like, oh, he'll go running. So instead of saying that he will go or he will go, it's he'll go running. Things like that. We need to use contractions more. We need to use reductions more. It's not like what do you want? It's what you want. That's such a much more common way of saying it. So it's going to make us uncomfortable because when we first start making those switches and trying to use contractions more, we're going to feel like we'll be understood less. That's going to happen. And it can feel like you're going backwards because it's like, man, before when I talk, people understood me. And now when I talk, people don't understand me. So why would I do this? Well, you do it because this is the thing that's going to make you sound more natural. But you have to practice it. We can't let fear and mistakes hold us back. These are the very things that are going to make us sound more natural. The fact that you're pronouncing things perfectly is the same reason why you don't sound perfect in English. It's the great irony. We have a question from Elchin. Jeff, could I ask you a question? No, I'm sorry. We are closed for questions for today. Next points. Now, when is the phrase my friend used in English? Do you mean my friend like addressing someone like, oh, like you see your friend like, oh, my friend, how good to see you? Because it's almost never used like that. I know like some languages use words in English are just not very common. Like something I see from, for instance, a lot of like people in like the Arabic speaking community, they'll use a lot of things like dear, like, oh dear, thank you so much for helping me, or like you'll and like things like that, and it's like, what? Like that's just not a very frequent word to use in English. Even like if I'm talking using like a pet name for my wife, I don't even use dear. Um, and things like that. So if we're kind of talking about using my friend in a similar way to that, yeah, that's not going to be super frequent. But if it's more like in reference to someone like a pronoun, like, oh, hey, like my friend needs to borrow a car. Can we use yours or something like that? Like, yeah, I mean, in that sort of situation, you can use my friend. But in this case, okay, so thanks for the clarity. Elchin says like, yeah, like, hi, my friend. Yeah, not super common to do that. Definitely makes you sound a little bit less natural. So instead, I personally use man a lot. Like, hey man, how's it going? Probably more common for guys to use that than for women. But yeah, like hey man, what's up, man? How's it going, man? Things like that I think are way more frequent. I'm trying to think of other alternatives besides that. Yeah, I can't think of a other one right now. If I do think of one, I'll try to let you know. But yeah, great question. Emmanuel makes the note that contractions are cool. Yeah, man. Embrace the mush. Eat your oatmeal. Embrace the mush. Another question here from Zabeta. Does being articulate mean pronouncing words clearly or expressing your ideas clearly? Does being articulate mean pronouncing words clearly, expressing your... Good question. I think articulate can mean both, but a lot of times it's used for someone expressing an idea very clearly. Okay. Just a quick note. This is more of like a cultural thing. So for instance, in the US, if you're talking to like someone who's black, you probably don't want to use the adjective articulate just because there's all kinds of contextual reasons for that, which I just don't have the time to go into history. But that's just one adjective you want to be kind of mindful of, that one specifically. But yes. Edward also asked here, always drop the pronouns sometimes. Can't remember where I put. Oh, like subject pronouns? Yeah, it is pretty frequent to drop subject pronouns, especially you'll see a lot in especially like text messages and things like that. But yeah, you can get away with pronouns as long as it's understood. Elshin asked, what about buddy? Buddy can work, but again, it's kind of dependent on context because use it in the wrong situation. It can feel a little bit sarcastic or not very genuine. So you kind of want to be careful. I would definitely look up sample situations, try to find some context of native speakers using buddy, because you want to be careful of that. Because if you're like, hey, what's up, buddy? Like that doesn't actually sound all that friendly and things. Zubair asks, Habibi, but can you use, would a guy, because maybe my impression of like Habibi is wrong, but can a guy use like Habibi with like another guy? Or like things like that? I don't know. I would appreciate your insights on that, Zabeta. If you know. Oscar notes, thank you, Jeff, for your answer. You hit the nail on the head. I'm playing with safe ground for that reason. I tend to avoid using contractions and reductions. Yeah. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to throw yourself into it 100%, but maybe again, we talked earlier about language goals. So a goal might be, hey, today I'm going to use this specific contraction 3 times. I can't go to sleep until I use this contraction 3 times, or something like that. This is where goals can come in, and you can kind of start working with ones you feel more comfortable with, and then gradually build up. Edward asks, great question. Here, is dude the equivalent of mate in the US? Yeah, I would say dude or man. Dude or man are very, very common ones. Oscar knows contractions and reductions are so cool when you tame them. Yeah, for sure. And, 100% necessary for getting a natural sound. Thank you so much for answering. Of course, thanks for asking. Hi, my friend. Sounds like you want a favor. It certainly can. It can sound like you're asking for a favor. Like, hey, what's up, my friend? How's it going? That sounds very... I would run in the opposite direction. All right. That was a couple files and things like that. And in case, again, you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're a lurker, if you're lurking, if you're a viewer lurking, or if you're watching this in the replay, but you've never said hi to me, can you just do me a favor? Say hi. Just want to know you're here. You can disappear right after that. I'm okay with that. But I just want to know. And if you're trying to help the stream out, there's 2 things you can do. First thing is that you can just like the stream if you're enjoying it, if you find this helpful. And the next thing you can do is you can, again, say something in the chat. Those sorts of engagement are super, super helpful for us. Oscar and Emmanuel talking about what does slurred mean. I appreciate that. Okay, that was Sycamores. Let's go back to some files. So again, you guys can send me your pronunciation. We'll take a look at it. Some feedback. See what we got here. 3 of our more original files. Sabeta sent us a file. Peter sent us a file. That's cool. See whose file this is.
So I was walking down the street the other day.
Yeah, I was walking down the street the other day. Sounds like we got Manuel. What time are we at? 54:55. Make a wish. Zabeda notes that she's heard they can in Iraqi Arabic. Yeah, I'm definitely not familiar with Iraqi. Definitely more familiar with Saudi. I think he's for both men and women, but it tends to be more masculine. Yeah, definitely hear more guys saying it than girls. But thank you for those insights. Pull this up again.
So I was walking down the street the other day, and I just saw somebody wearing a toilet on his head. Oh, well, that's John. I mean, everyone knows John.
Okay, I like the intonation things you're doing at the end. That's really great.
So I was walking down the street the other day.
Let me hear that other day part.
So I was walking down the street the other day.
So a lot of times, so the other day is a phrase that's often used in stories. So the other day I was walking down the street. The other day, so I was walking down the street the other day. Walking down the street the other day.
Street the other day.
So I was walking down the street the other day. So I was walking down the street the other day.
Other day.
Day. So it sounds like you're using falling intonation. I think very often when you use the other day in like a story, a lot of times it has a rising intonation. So I would probably try to go up a little bit more. The other day. So I was walking down the street the other day. So I was walking down the street the other day.
Street the other day.
I also want to hear other again.
Walking down the street the other day.
The other. I think can you get the schwa sounded other just like a touch stronger? Just a little stronger.
Walking down the street the other day.
The other day, because like the others kind of rolling together a little bit. I would like that schwa sound another just to kind of get some more separation between the words. The other day. So I was walking down the street the other day. So I was walking down the street the other day.
So I was walking down the street the other day.
Yeah, and another thing too, street the other day. Pitches were a little similar.
On the street the other day.
Street the other day. I would have maybe just gone down a little bit more. The other day. Just I think you could go a little bit lower in pitch. Just a note. Elchin asked a really great question, really quick.
Question.
What's offer use for editing? Actually, the very next video I have, this is the first video where I talk about products that I use that I think might be helpful for you. So Elchin, I would say hang tight because tomorrow that video is going to be coming out. I just finished editing it today. But if you can't wait, the program is called Movavi. But there's a couple different tools that come part of it that I think are super helpful for learning pronunciation. So keep an eye out for that video tomorrow. That was a great little assist there. Keep an eye out for that video tomorrow. I think there's a product that I think you guys are going to find super, super helpful. Getting ready if you want to treat yourself during the holidays.
So I was walking down the street the other day, and I just saw somebody wearing a toilet on his head.
I would have gone higher on toilet just to kind of emphasize the ridiculousness of this. You know, they're wearing a toilet. They're wearing a toilet on their head. Like I just saw someone wearing a toilet on his head.
Somebody wearing a toilet on his head.
Another note too, pronoun wise, there's nothing wrong with using his. That's perfectly fine. A lot of times with someone, a lot of times you're going to see the pronoun there used because it's I don't know, it's just very, very frequent. A lot of times when you don't know who someone is, a lot of times you'll see they or there. But it's not wrong to use his. That's fine.
So somebody wearing a toilet on his head.
Someone wearing a toilet on his head. I saw someone wearing a toilet on his head. You know, so I think that's a great opportunity to use some higher pitch. This is what I often tell students is they don't use the same range of pitches that a lot of native speakers do. And I think this is kind of an example. I think if you hear a lot of native speakers saying this, you're going to hear way higher pitches on toilet. I just saw someone wearing a toilet on his head, like something like that, or even higher. Just a note. I want to play the whole part against if there's other things standing out about vowels or linking and things.
So I was walking down the street the other day, and I just saw somebody wearing a.
And I want to hear that pause.
The other day, and I just saw
the other day. You know, a very common strategy when you have this thought group that's ending. I was walking down the street the other day, and then that's your thought group. That's your unit. It all goes together. Great. I would really recommend at the end of a thought group, if you're able to, keep the final sound going as you link to the next part. So I was walking down the street the other day and I just saw someone. I just saw this guy, or it was like something like that, just holding day and day and.
Walking down the street the other day.
Do you hear how the breath just died there? In fact, you even took a breath. So I was walking down the street the other day, and I just saw versus. So I was walking down the street the other day, and I just saw somebody, like something like that. Will just help link your thought groups a lot more. Keep the breath flowing. This is really key to getting that natural sound in American English.
Somebody wearing a toilet on his head.
Yeah,
Oh,
another thing there too. Note to see the exclamation point on head. That's another reason why I think you really need to go higher pitch in toilet, because I do not think you have not earned the exclamation point. I am mad at you, Emmanuel. You have not earned the exclamation point. You are not showing that emotion that you have written. So I am demoting you to a period. I am sorry it's happened, but you have to earn your exclamation points around here. And right now you have not. So this is definitely more of a period.
somebody wearing a toilet on his head.
Yeah. If you want that exclamation point, I saw someone wearing a toilet on his head. I saw someone wearing a toilet on his head. Like now you would earn it.
Oh, well, that's John. I mean, everyone knows John.
Okay, I like your intonation patterns here. Oh, well, that's John. Everyone knows John. Like I like that fall rise you have there on John at the end. Everyone knows John. Like everyone knows John. You could even go on higher. Like everyone knows John. So something like that. But I like that intonation pattern on. Okay, this is a very, very common pattern there. My last major comment though is going to be on the word John.
I just saw somebody wearing a toilet on his head. Oh, well, that's John. I mean, everyone knows John.
John. Versus John. I would use more of an ah sound. Okay, because I'm hearing John. John just sounds a little closed off. Versus John. Everyone knows John.
Oh, well, that's John. I mean, everyone knows John.
John versus John. John. Just a note there, see if you can hear that difference. Emmanuel, thanks for sending that file. If you have some questions and things, be sure to let me know. But as always, we appreciate hearing from you. I get to hear from Emmanuel 6 out of 7 days of the week, which is great. Loves the exclamation point. Yeah, man. Yeah. We have a question here from Edward.
Question.
How do you pronounce just saw? Just saw. Oh, from that audio or from that file? Just saw. I just saw somebody. I just saw somebody. That's how I would say that. I just saw somebody. I just saw somebody. I just saw somebody. I just saw somebody. A lot of times just is a word that also gets stressed, just to note. Like I just saw somebody. I just saw somebody. A lot of times the T will actually kind of disappear and you'll just kind of link the S sounds. Just saw somebody. Just saw somebody. Just to know. So you don't necessarily need to pronounce the T. Hopefully that answers your question, Edward. Unless you had more, be sure to let me know. Thank you, Emmanuel. Always good to hear your files. Just a quick note, guys. I want to talk about another opportunity that you have. So maybe you're getting some value from what we're doing today. Let me know in the chat if you guys have learned one thing today. Can you just tell me in the chat? Just like, yes, I learned something. Or if you didn't learn something, you can say, no, I learned nothing. And let me know in the chat and that'll be really helpful. But another opportunity that we have, maybe Mission English, this isn't the right time. It's not the right season for Mission English. Again, Mission English is $30 a month. Maybe that's hard to come by right now. There might be, but you still want to study pronunciation every day. Another option that might be way more affordable is we have a group on Telegram where every single day of the week, what I do is I post a challenge group of words. I post audio of myself saying them. And then what you can do is reply with a voice message. And I listen to you and I give you feedback. And in fact, I have another assistant with me. Her name is Lenora. She's going to be appearing in some videos soon. Get excited. But we listen to your pronunciation and we give some feedback every single day of the week. Mission English is Monday through Friday. The Telegram group is every single day. We don't take weekends off. Pronunciation doesn't take a day off. So we don't either. So that's another opportunity for you, again, in our pronunciation Telegram group, which you can join by going to patreon.com/fluentamerican, or you can go to fluentamerican.com/Mission English, and there's an option to join there. But just to give you an idea what that group looks like.
Eel, please. I think your O sounds are a little bit tense. I'm getting a lot of O. Take off the T on center.
So again, another opportunity for you to get some studying in. So we all want to help you out every single day of the week. $5 get you access to the group for 30, 31 days, or 28 days if you join in that unfortunate month of February. Let's see. We got some good questions coming in. Elshon asks, is there a difference between soccer and football? Depends where you go. In general, if you go to North America and you say football, specifically USA or Canada, can't speak for Mexico. Their pronunciation is slightly different. So if you say football, people are immediately going to think Canadian football or American football. But if you go to other parts of the globe, then football will be the more common word for soccer. So yeah, it definitely depends on where you go. And there's even people stateside that use the term football for soccer too. So it kind of depends on the people that you're talking to entirely. I know that's a horrible answer, but that's the honest truth. Hello to Bilal checking in. Look at this, checking in even though they're super, super busy. And this is actually, that applause goes for all of you here. You guys are here on a Saturday, like Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon. You guys are here on a Saturday learning American English pronunciation with me. Not just you're learning with me. This guy, you trust this guy? That's wild. That is wild. If you had told me like 5 years ago that people would be watching this, like what? What? Oh man. Alrighty. Let's get some more files in, shall we? What else is going on? Is this the file we just heard?
So I was walking down the street.
Yep. Who next?
Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room, and hermits are contented with their cells.
Okay, show continuing to rock us with the poetry. Get Bella Poesia. See what we got again.
Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room, and hermits are contented with their cells.
Okay. This feels very choppy. Appreciate Edward giving explanations. Elchin, let's say thank you. That's funny. That is funny.
Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room, and hermits are contented with their cells.
Okay. So compared to especially some other files that you've sent, this one feels very choppy. The consonant sounds are really kind of taking over, and the breath is kind of stopping after each word. So what that it's doing is it's kind of making everything sound a little choppy. So let's talk about some ways we can kind of smooth this out a little bit.
Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room.
Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room. I would give you 2 stresses. Right now you're kind of giving me a lot, but I would do 2. I would stress not and room. It's like nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room. Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room. So one little phrase there. Let's say, are you saying convent's narrow room?
Fret not at their convent's narrow room.
Actually, that ironic. That is the place where you have the most linking. You can hear on narrow room. That sounds good.
Their convent's narrow room.
That part flows really nicely. The breath keeps going. Convent's narrow room. You're kind of doing that in one breath, just gradually getting there, which is great. I like it, but we're getting pretty choppy at this first part.
Nuns fret not at their.
I think it's the not at there, not at there.
Nuns fret not at their.
Not at there, not at there. So using either like a fast D sound, like not at there, or using a held T, like not at there, like something like that is just going to help smooth that a little bit.
Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room.
Convent's narrow room. Don't go so high on convents because that's probably not going to be your heavy stress. Heavy stress would probably again be on room.
Not at their convent's narrow room.
Dude, that convent's narrow room versus convent's narrow room. So I don't think you need to go as high there. How about the second half?
And hermits.
And hermits.
Room. And hermits.
And hermits Yeah, I like the idea here going to higher pitch. I'm just compare mine to yours a little bit. Slight differences in where I'm raising, going higher on the pitch, but I like your idea here. That's a great strategy for sound natural.
And hermits are contented with their cells.
Are contented with their cells, and hermits are contented with their cells. And hermits are contented with their cells. So this actually brings up a great point. I want to kind of talk about parallel structure. If you guys have never heard of parallel structure before, let's just kind of talk really quick about that because it's one of the most fundamental concepts in English. Parallel structure is everywhere once you know what to look for. Parallel structure basically means that if I use one sort of structure here, I'm also going to use it over here grammatically. So in this example here, we have this comparison between the nuns and we have the hermits, right? So we're using like nuns do this, hermits do this, right? So that's kind of where the parallel structure comes into play. What we often see in American English is that, let's talk about stress. Whatever word I stress in my first part of parallel structure, the inclination a lot of students have is that I'm going to stress the same thing in the second half. So like if I stress in my first one a noun, then in my second one, I'm also going to stress a noun. Or if I'm stressing verbs, I'll stress another verb here. But what we often see is that actually when you listen to people using parallel structure is there's a difference. If I stress the noun here, maybe I'll stress the verb here. If I stress the adjective here, maybe stress here, I'll stress the noun and things like that. There's very often a difference. So for instance, in that first half, I would stress not and room. And the second one, and hermits are contented with their cells. I would maybe even just stress hermits. Nuns fret not at their commons in their room, and hermits are contented with their cells. Or another option would be I'm contented. And hermits are contented with their cells. Like something like that, you know, just for comparisons of the differences there. Emmanuel asked a great question. Does the NT rule contented? You know, again, NT, I wouldn't necessarily call it a rule. It's kind of more of a guideline. Very common when you have an N plus a T, that the T goes silent. So for instance, a word like center or a word like interview. Contented can certainly do that. And hermits are contented with their cells. So you could say contented. If you use a T, that's not necessarily wrong. You know, contented. You know, even using content as a verb is not very common in modern English, contemporary English, not very common. But again, this is an older poem. Wordsworth was writing in the 1800s. So just something there. Other things that kind of come up with the audio.
Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room, and hermits are contented with their cells.
Again, a little choppy on that last part. Contented with their cells versus contented with their cells. I would say, see if you can read it that way with lots of linking. And again, one breath just kind of flowing from one part to the next. Contented with their cells. Contented with their cells.
Hermits are contented with their.
Another thing, you have another opportunity for linking with like the with there. Notice that the TH is actually kind of joined together very often. So like instead of with there, more with there, with there. It's like that voiceless TH kind of just merges with the voice TH. With their cells, with their cells, with their cells. Okay. But Shok, thank you so much for sending that file. If you have any questions there about anything, be sure to let me know. But good stuff as always. Shok's just always trying to keep us educated, which I appreciate. I do appreciate that. Let me see again. Let us know again. We have some polls going up. So right now our poll is, how many episodes of Schwa Mill have you seen? First timers, more than half, or just almost half. Excuse me, almost half of them seen us for the first time. If you're a first timer here, let me know. If you're lurking, I like to meet our lurkers, but if you want to stay quiet, that's fine too. Okay, and again, our question right now is, what is the pronunciation challenge that you have right now? If you want to share with me, what is the difficulty that you are working on with your pronunciation? I would love to know. Manuel also makes a note. Would love to discuss more about parallel structure next week. We can try to take a look at that. I'd be more than happy to. Okay. Other things here. Elchin asks how to pronounce Witham. Depends on context. If you want to stress at them, that will change things. But very often, if both of those words are reduced, you would expect it to sound like with them. Like I'll go with them. I'll go with them. But you could also say with them. I'll go with them. But with them is a very common way of reducing that and linking it. Okay. Hush says hardest thing is dark L and TH. Most likely with the TH, you're probably working harder when you're doing a TH than I am. TH sound is super, super light, very light contact with your either top front tooth or bottom front tooth. Most likely you're pressing too hard or your tongue's too high. But we'll see in your pronunciation file if any of that comes up. Bilal says, big problem I have is just like that. My choppy pause is discontinuous, disconnected, and couldn't move to the next move part. If I'm not done with the previous points. Yeah. Just trying to keep the breath flowing. Again, between thought groups, trying to keep the whatever the last sound is going can be really helpful. For instance, if I wanted to do it there, trying to keep whatever the last sound is going. Sounds like sound is going, something like that. But yeah, I think that's a super, super common problem. I hope that the times when we talk about linking and breath and things, I hope you're finding that helpful for when listening to people's audio. Going back, speaking of audio files, is this the one that we just listened to?
Sometimes.
Oh, Marcos is going dramatic. Don't know if he has a... Let me see where he wrote this. Oh, here it is. I'm looking right at it. Oh, man, Marcos wrote the words. Thank you, Marcos. Appreciate that. My life a little easier. Let's see what Marcos got for us. Get excited, people.
Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed.
Oh my gosh. Marcos going heavy. This is like, just makes you want to cry a little. My God. Who hurt you, Marcos?
Sometimes.
Even at first, sometimes, it's super dramatic, super long, sometimes. Just staring off into the distance as you have flashbacks from the war. Oh my gosh.
Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed.
For the timestamps reminder. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, adding emotion to speech is always a challenge for people, but this is great.
Sometimes people don't.
A lot of times with sometimes too, the stress actually falls on some. Sometimes. So I would also kind of experiment with which part you want to stress. I would maybe consider stressing some. Sometimes. Something like that. Sometimes. People don't want to hear the truth. Something like that.
Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth.
Too choppy on the to hear the truth. To hear the truth. Too choppy. People don't want to hear the truth. You need to make want really pop there, in my opinion. And instead, what happens is because that next part's so choppy, it starts getting a lot of the attention and the focus. So suddenly, this is a very dramatic sentence, but the part that's most dramatic is kind of losing its impact because you keep it's so choppy that it's distracting me as a listener. People don't want to hear the truth. Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth. Something like that to me would sound even more powerful.
People don't want to hear the truth.
Want to hear. It's the other issue too is the pitch. So want is your high point. You don't want here to distract from that. Your here is going so high, so it almost makes it sound like you want to stress that. People don't want to hear the truth.
Times people don't want to hear the truth.
Want to hear the truth. Want to hear the truth. So I would just go a little bit lower on the pitch tone here.
Times people don't want to hear the truth.
Another thing too on that hear the truth part, I'll be honest with you, when I'm saying hear the truth, I can do that with the tip of my tongue down against my bottom front tooth or the bottom of my mouth the entire time. Hear the truth, hear the truth, hear the truth. And in fact, I'm not really pronouncing that TH on the, tip my tongue is down. Middle of my tongue is down. Hear the truth. It's more like hear the truth. Hear the. It's not hear the or hear the. It's more hear the truth. Honesty. Having a clear th sound is going to make that sound really choppy.
People don't want to hear the truth because
I do like where you're at for truth. I think truth is a good spot pitch wise and length wise.
Because they don't want their illusions destroyed.
Because they don't want their illusions destroyed. I would have I see what you're doing, kind of dragging it out, but personally, and there's a lot of style here, right? So you can kind of take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt if it's not doing what you intended, but because they don't want their illusions destroyed. I would have stressed illusions, but instead of illusions, more illusions destroyed, because they don't want their illusions destroyed. They don't want their illusions destroyed. I don't think we need to drag it out.
Because they don't want their illusions destroyed.
Like you did that for like almost a full second. Illusions. Whereas I would just done, they don't want their illusions destroyed. Just a note there.
Their illusions destroyed.
Also, that long pause between illusions and destroyed. Not entirely necessary, but if you're trying to go really dramatic, they don't want their illusions destroyed. Right, so there's something like that if we're going really dramatic. But yeah, pay attention to those things I mentioned about the kind of the pauses and the stresses and things and see what you think. But thank you so much for sending that audio. I appreciate it as always, sir. All right, that wraps up our first batch, which is exciting. Edward asks, can you reduce want to want in this passage? They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. You can. If you say like people don't want to hear the truth, I think that what I would say is that people don't want to hear the truth. You change your stress a little bit, and you can lose some of the weight. It sounds like if people don't want to hear the truth versus like people don't want to hear the truth. People don't want to hear the truth. That can make it sound a little bit more emphatic, but there's not necessarily anything wrong if you reduce it. And Emmanuel asks, can you say destroyed?
Question.
I don't know. Can you? Can I? Can I stress destroyed? Can I do that? Do I have that power? They don't want their illusions destroyed because they don't want their illusions destroyed. Nah, I probably wouldn't. They don't want their illusions destroyed. It doesn't work because, in my opinion, because if you did that, then you would want. It makes it sound like illusions has already been referred to previously in the conversation if you do that. But my guess is this is probably like the first mention of even illusions. But yeah, so I personally would not do that. Good question. Manuel says, my mom just saw you, Jeff. This could go a million directions. Oh my gosh. And she said, he has got to be a really modest guy with a great personality. Thank you, Elchin's mom. You the real MVP. I appreciate the kind words, miss. Thank you. And she nailed it. Elchin says, and by the way, she does not speak English. Man, just looking at me and hearing I think it's my pitches. I think it's the fact that I can go really, really high and really, really low. That's my guess. I don't know. But that's great. Tell your mom thank you. Buy her like some flowers or something. Treat your mom nice. Be nice. Cook her dinner tonight. Say it was Jeff. That's your goal for this week. Your pronunciation goal this week is to cook dinner for your mom. For saying kind things about your pronunciation teacher. All right. Who next? That is our original file. Oh, I forgot a timestamp. Dang it. I tried to be so good. That's annoying. Elchin sent his file. Oscar sent a file. Z sent a file. And Peter. I'm a little nervous about the Peter one. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to give you guys back your screen. Just want to take a quick look at these files and get them vetted for a moment. Okay. Who is this? Oh, man. I'm going to even try to butcher this name. Maximiliano Nascimento, posso dire. Okay. Love your comment, your content, and your comment. Thank you very much. Do you have tips for Brazilian accents? Yeah, I think we can give some tips for Brazilian. We can talk about that, Brazilian accents and Portuguese. And YouTube user says, I'd hook up with Jeff if I was a girl. Man, be hot AF. Yeah, man. Appreciate those kind words. Thank you for joining the stream. Maximiliano, if you have a file that you would like to send us, there's still a little bit of time if you could do it really soon. Okay. Send us something. Emmanuel says, coworkers love you, Jeff, even though most of them can't understand what you're saying. Most of my friends can't even understand what I'm saying. So the fact people tune into this pronunciation channel is beyond me. Appreciate you guys saying that. Okay, so coming from Brazilian accents and Portuguese. So what I would say, okay, Brazilian Portuguese and Portuguese in general tends to be very nasal in terms of placement. So like a lot of the sounds are like coming from like up here. So the first thing is going to be placement. We want to try to lower that. I would spend a lot of times on vowel sounds. Specifically, I would look at vowel diphthongs because Brazilian has a lot of I keep saying Brazilian. Portuguese has a lot of very strong diphthongs with like very clear separations between the parts, like oh, like mal, and like oi, and like things like that, really high nasally. American English diphthongs tend to be there's a lot less separation between the parts. So instead of like oi, a lot of time more like oi. Instead of like ow, it becomes more just like ow and things like that. So you're not going to see as much of a separation between the first vowel and the second vowel in the diphthong. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Like the common American English diphthongs would be a. So it's not a, it's a. I. It's not I, it's I. It's not oi, it's oi. Or like ow, it's more ow, and things like that. So I would pay some attention to diphthongs. For words that start with the letter S, for some people that speak Portuguese, they're adding a vowel sound before it. So make sure you're not saying like school, it's just school. Or make sure you're not saying like Spanish, it's Spanish, things like that. In terms of vowel sounds that commonly get confused for Portuguese, you want to take a look at the big one. I think is like a versus eh. So the difference between doing like man versus men, or like flash versus flesh, or like taxes versus Texas. That's a big one. In addition to like versus e, it's like sit versus seat, hit versus heat, things like that. Trying to think of some other things that are big for consonant clusters. So like things going like an STS, like pests, or like masks. Make sure you're not adding vowel sounds in there. L sounds, dark L's. I mean, this is true for like everybody, but dark L sounds, like if a word is ending on an L, make sure you're doing like more of a like So for instance, like level, trouble, things like that. So that's kind of something that I would really, if you're looking for places to start, that is something I would take a look at. In fact, I actually have a playlist, and I'm glad. Let me see. Thank you, Elchin. Just brings this up. Thank you, Elchin. In fact, I'm gonna put that. I have so many playlists, though. That's the only thing. It's gonna make this really confusing. Give me a moment. Dramatic pause. Dramatic pause. Dramatic pause. It's like listening to Marcos's file again. No, I'm just kidding, Marcos. Okay, here we are. I'm gonna go to playlists. Please tell me I can search playlists. Can I search playlists? No, dang it. Well, I have a playlist that says American English for Portuguese speakers somewhere. They're gonna make it really complicated. Is there a search option? Search. Let's just type Portuguese and hope for the best. Okay, cool. Yay. So if you go to the right and you type it, look for the search icon and you type in Portuguese. I have this playlist specifically for Portuguese. Starts off with Neymar, a couple other actors like Wagner Moura and things like that. So if you're looking for some common, Anita too, some things for Portuguese speakers. Same thing. So Russian accents, Slavic languages as well. Big thing for Russian speakers. Ukrainian speakers, Slavic language speakers. Yeah, so big things for Russian speakers. Final E sounds, so words that end on an E. It's like, for instance, like city, country. Make sure you're not reducing that. So it's not city, country, it's city, country. Words that end on an O sound or just O's in general. You know, for instance, the word Moscow. Make sure you're saying sko. It's not sko, Moscow. It's Moscow. Or like Mexico. Make sure it's not Mexico. It's Mexico. Or like San Francisco. It's not San Francisco. It's San Francisco. V's and W's. That's probably that's some low hanging fruit there, but make sure that when you see a W, it's pronounced wa. It's not pronounced as v. That's a huge one for Russian speakers. The A sound and the S sound again. So for instance, like man versus men, pan versus pen, sat versus set. That's a big one. I versus E, sit, seat, hit, heat. That's a big one for Russian speakers as well. Another big one for Russian speakers would be N versus NG sounds. So the difference between sin and sing, or like win and the wing, because typically Russian speakers are not doing that NG. They're just saying like win, win, or thin, thin versus win, wing, thin, thing. Consonant sounds tend to be very heavy for Russian and Portuguese speakers too, for most languages. So kind of just shifting from shifting from consonants to emphasizing vowel sounds is big. And yeah, very similar thing too. I have a playlist that also looks at Russian speakers as well. So that might be something you want to check out. Just type in the search icon I just showed, just use Russian instead of Portuguese. Just something to keep in mind. Also placement, because Russian seems to kind of be like more from like up here, whereas again, American English tends to be a little bit lower. So just kind of lowering your placement. Also schwa sounds, ah sounds. You know, for instance, if you ask a lot of Russian speakers to say the word, even just saying the word Russia, a lot of times you get more Russia versus like Russia. So schwa sounds for your there's some common things that can be tricky for Russian speakers and Slavic languages too. Similarities there. All right. Audio files. I said I was going to scout audio files, but there were some questions that came up. Make sure I'm getting everything. Maximiliano, let me know if those help. And YouTube user, let me know if those help too. Other things. Zobeda asks if I want to narrate a documentary, is a good idea to talk like Marcos. Marcus or Marcos? I think you mean Marcos, right? It can. I mean, you could also look up like Morgan Freeman. He's probably like the stereotypical, or like James Earl Jones. But yeah, I think it can work. It sounds a little bit dramatic, but yeah, it can be appropriate.
Question.
Great question here as well. Sometimes in British English, what are we saying here? Diphthongs can be reduced to a single word. Yeah, I would say in American English, you see diphthongs that become one sound as opposed to two. I think that's very, very fair. Russian speaker too. Yeah, I mean it's hard with like the Slavic languages because like the things that I just mentioned are especially heavy for like Russian speakers in Russia, whereas like other Slavic languages there are some slight differences. You know, if I believe you said you're from Azerbaijan. So in general, other Slavic languages don't necessarily have the exact same. So for instance, like I have a couple Czech students. The Czech accent is a little bit different than the accent you would get from Russians. Just a note. But YouTube is describing them perfectly. That's great. Oh yeah, music makes everything. It's this I don't actually know what song this is. You guys can tell me. Is this a good song? I don't actually know what song this is. I can't actually hear it either. So you guys can let me know if that's a good song or not. But Elchin, you probably speak another language as well. That's why you don't have typical. Yeah, that's certainly possible. Okay, moving right along. Heritage Yiddish. That's great. I have a couple of Hebrew students right now. Okay, a couple things I want to check out, including Oscars. Doing a quick listen here. Give me a moment, guys. Just checking files. Okay. Checking Zobeda's file. Just want to make sure Zobeda's not like cussing me out. Oh, she sounds angry though. She's not cussing me out, but she sounds really not happy. Maximiliano, send us a file. Yeah. Join the club. Yes. They got hooked in. Yes. Okay. As I'm doing this, guys, just a quick reminder. Like what you're hearing. Let us know by liking and subscribing. Ooh, summer garments. Ooh. I can't remember the last time I used the word garment. Get excited for that, guys. Oh my gosh. I know you guys can't hear this one, man. I don't even know what's happening. Got excited. All right, I'm just yeah, I might have to just hope for the best on that one. Okay, I think I have everyone's files here. If you have not sent us a file, shame on you. Send us a file next time. I cleared the documents on usually Thursday or Friday, so we would love to have your audio file next week. Want to also take a quick look at our poll. Let us know in the poll. So again, we're seeing how many episodes of the Schwa Mill have you seen? Still in the lead, first time. Tied would be 4 to 10 and 11 plus. Oh my gosh. So it's either feast or famine here. You've either seen just one or you've seen many. Feast or famine. That is great. All right, let's but in general, I'm going to close the document. Oh, I can't like fully close it because I need it for the text. Silly. All right, let me share my screen and let's go through these last couple files. My goal is to get this done and out of here within the next 20 minutes. Fingers crossed I can achieve that goal. Stamps because we do that.
A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Awesome. Great to have your file, Oscar. I hope you can send us some future window. This again.
A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Okay, the first thing I want to tell you is bush. Watch out for that sound. This is the same sound that you get in a word like, for instance, like book or in good. This is your the back of your tongue is high and the front of your tongue is down. Okay, so again, it's not bush, it's more bush, bush. You want to be careful with that B too, because what that B makes you want to do is it makes you really want to pop things open. It's like bush. But you want to make sure your lips are staying a little straighter and you're keeping that placement low. It's bush. Just a note there. It's worth two in the bush.
A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Okay. You're giving me a lot of stresses as well. So this isn't a super long sentence, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, what? About 11 words here. But you're probably giving me like 4 or 5 stresses.
A bird in the
stress on bird.
Hand is
stress on hand.
Worth two
in
the bush.
And then bush. So that's a lot of stresses. Probably could cut that in half. Bird in the hand. I would stress hand. So we're 2 in the bush. So you could either stress 2 or bush. I'll give you that option, but cut your stresses in half. And that's really important because by limiting the number of stresses you have, it will allow you to flow more and link more. So this is really important that you do that because otherwise it's going to make everything sound really choppy. And Edward makes a note that bush rhymes with push and careful. Bush does rhyme with push, but plush has a schwa sound. It's like push and plush have different sounds, at least in American English. Like I wouldn't say plush, I would say plush, like in luck or was plush sound. Just a note. At least that's how I would say it. Quick, let's go back.
A bird in the hand is
a bird in the hand. A bird in the hand. Bird in the hand. Hear that difference? Also note the in the.
A bird in the hand.
In the hand. A lot of times when you have in the, that th is kind of disappearing, and instead you kind of just release on the n. In the hand.
Is worth two in the bush.
Same thing with in the bush. No, it's all good. Nothing to be upset about. You don't have to write that.
Worth two in the bush.
2 in the bush. 2 in the bush.
Worth two in the bush.
I would also encourage you to say bush 3 times, like bush, bush, bush. And I want you to compare it to the way I just said it, because my guess is if you're saying like bush, 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 what's happening is your B sounds really strong and maybe even your SH sound is really strong. But the thing we really want is we want the vowel to be strong. So you want to really hear that bush, bush, bush. If you're saying bush, 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 that's a sign that your B is too strong. Just a note.
A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Oh, I want to talk about hand.
A bird in the hand is
Hand, hand, hand. You have to be careful with the ah sound when it links with the letter N, because it's not going to be a standard ah. If you use the same as, like for instance, like cat or sad, you're gonna be sad. You're gonna be very disappointed because it's not the same sound. When the ah sound comes before the letter N, it becomes a little slightly tenser. You can see it in your jaw. Your lips can tense a little bit. You also want to send your tongue backwards slightly, and you want to do a heavy breath out of your nose right before that N. So it sounds like and. So like hand. So it's not hand, it's more hand. Bird in the hand.
a bird in the hand is
Hand, hand. Do you hear that difference? So just kind of practicing that. That's a tricky sound. In my opinion, that's the hardest sound in English, in all honesty. But just kind of something to watch out for. All right, for the sake of time, I am going to move on, but thank you so much for sending that file, Oscar, I believe, right? I hope to hear from you more soon, man. Please send us on next week. Great to hear from you. Who next? Who next? Who next? I don't know. Who do you guys know? 2-second file.
They shouldn't have brought it to the table.
Oh my gosh. I hope I always stay on Zubeda's good side. 'Cause she strikes me as like she can give like some spunk and some attitude, and I don't want to be on the bad end of that. You know what I mean? I just don't want to disappoint Zubeda. I just don't want to disappoint her. All right, let's listen to this again.
They shouldn't have brought it to the table.
Dude, this is just like dripping with disappointment. Just like, they shouldn't have brought it to the table. Just like such disappointment.
They shouldn't have brought it to the table.
They shouldn't have brought it to the table. They shouldn't have brought it to the table. I don't think this is bad.
They shouldn't have brought it to the table.
On the one hand, I do feel like the pitches are kind of similar, but I am glad that you're starting pretty high on shouldn't. They shouldn't have brought it to the table.
They shouldn't have brought it to the table.
You know, I like your dark on table. That sounds really good. You could experiment with pitches, though. You could expand the range. You could go even lower. They shouldn't have brought it to the table. They shouldn't have brought it to the table. Like something like that. You know, so you could have gone down even more if you wanted. But I don't even want to say that this was necessarily wrong. I think it sounds okay. Sorry if you hear my notifications. My Skype's going crazy.
They shouldn't have brought it to the table.
I can really sense the disappointment here. Something happened that you didn't want. So just good emotion. You know, that's something that a lot of people are kind of lacking in their speech, is trying to identify a set emotion.
They shouldn't have brought it to the table.
They shouldn't have brought it. How about here? How are you doing? Shouldn't have.
They shouldn't have brought it.
Shouldn't have brought it. I like your reduction there and your contraction. Shouldn't have. Another option too, you could do shouldn't have. They shouldn't have brought it. They shouldn't have brought it. They shouldn't have brought it.
They shouldn't have brought it.
Right now you're using more shouldn't have versus shouldn't have. Both are correct. There's nothing wrong with either. It's just kind of doing personal, whatever works best for you.
They shouldn't have brought it to the table.
Yeah. I don't really have a whole lot else to say. I mean, I like this. Very clear emotion. That's something that can be difficult to obtain. So I definitely appreciate that aspect of it. Thank you for sending the file, Z. Appreciate you, miss. Who next?
I understand what you're saying and your comments are valuable, but I'm going to ignore your advice.
Okay. This is from that earlier one. Going back, her.
I understand what you're saying and your comments are valuable, but I'm going to ignore your advice.
Okay, you have a couple places where your placement gets a little bit high. So I kind of just want to identify some of those.
I understand what you're saying.
Understand sounds pretty low and open, but saying goes very, very high.
I understand what you're saying.
Say, like, I understand what you're saying, like your A sound. Can you just say A, like A? then you can add an S before, like a, say, a, say. Make sure it's not a, say, it's more a, say. So you want to make sure you're keeping that low and open. Also on that ing sound, that ing is such a tricky sound, and it's one that a lot of people kind of ignore. But you want to make sure, again, usually it's going to be more short eyes, like ing, ing. It's the ing, ing. It's more ing, ing. So again, lower and more open. Saying, saying. Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Hey guys, my chat is dead. If you're alive, say hi. I'm still here. Just let me know you're awake. I haven't heard anyone in a couple minutes. Getting nervous. I get nervous sometimes, guys. Just let me know if you're live in the chat.
I understand what you're saying, and your comments are valuable.
And the thing that's happening too after saying is that because we raised that placement on saying, then everything after it also sounds a little bit high too. Okay. Emmanuel says he's live. Oh, thank God. I was getting nervous. Maximiliano is here. Good, good, good. Hopefully these tips are helpful.
And your comments are valuable.
So as soon as you say saying, again, your placement rises and then it kind of stays high for that next part. Saying and your comments are valuable versus saying and your comments are valuable. So you probably want lower that pitch a little bit on that next part, and your comments are valuable. I understand what you're saying, and you want that and you're notice that drop, and you're saying, and you're saying, and you're. I would just practice that little scale, saying, and you're saying, and you're. So like just kind of practicing that. People are alive. Good. Emmanuel's alive. Maximilian says hi, and he's alive. And then Elchin just says very eloquently, "Yo, what's up, dog? How you be?"
Your comments are valuable.
And your comments are valuable. I want to hear the ball.
Comments are valuable.
Valuable. Yeah, not bad on the ball. You could even, if you want to get even more air through on that, but that's not bad. It's not bad at all.
It's valuable, but I'm going.
See if there's anything else in that first part.
I understand what you're saying, and your comments are valuable, but I'm going to ignore your advice.
Advice. You stressed ad. You want to stress more vice. Advice. I'm going to ignore your advice. Advice. Stress vice. It's not advice, more advice. Just a note there.
What you're saying, and your comments are valuable, but I'm going to ignore your advice.
I'm going to ignore your advice. But I'm going to ignore your advice.
Valuable, but I'm going to ignore your advice.
But I'm going to ignore your advice. I liked how you said ignore. I would have kept that as, so that's kind of your stressed word in that part. So I would have kept going down in pitch too. Ignore your advice. But I'm going to ignore your advice. But I'm going to ignore your advice. But I'm going to ignore your advice. So something like that. Instead of ignore your advice, but I'm going to ignore your advice. I think that's going to sound a little sharper in terms of pitch. Other things that stand out here.
I understand what you're saying, and your comments are valuable.
I like the what you're saying. That's some good linking there.
I understand what you're saying.
What you're saying. You know, you could even make that CH sound like what you're. You can make that even stronger if you wanted.
And your comments are valuable, but I'm going to ignore your advice.
Yeah, but those are going to be my big tips there. If there's anything there that's you're not sure about, be sure to let me know. But thank you so much for sending out audio. Hope to hear from you again next week. Next week. Okay. Did I do a timestamp on that? Maybe. I didn't do a timestamp for either of them. I'm going to guess that was like 140. I guess this was like 138. Emmanuel asked a great question. Can you reduce? I'm gonna even more. I'm gonna. Yeah, you could say like I'm gonna ignore you. I'm gonna ignore. Yeah, I think that's good. Elchin takes the blame. Nah, man, that's on me. I'll take the L on that one. I'll take the L. That's my bad. People in the replay will forgive me, I hope. Oh, we got a book here. Someone sent us their audio book. Let's take a listen.
I believe this cold weather won't remain for a long time, since now it is spring, the time of the year that birds start appearing, people start wearing summer garments, and so forth. To me, it should be called golden period.
Okay. I'm not sure if you're taking this from a text or if this is just your own eloquent way of speaking. I would have expected the before be called the golden period. Like I would have expected the there personally. A fourth does make me think maybe it's coming from British English, because again, fourth American English will not have that U sound. Edward, Edward, are you here? Edward, we need your help. Is this British English? Please tell me. Okay, but those things aside, what else can we say here?
I believe this.
You know, Elchin, again, like I like what you're doing with breath, because I know when you first sent in files, the consonants were pretty heavy and the breath was kind of restricted a bit. But I think you're doing a great job of really opening things up. So kudos to Elchin for doing the things. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip Elchin. 1, 2, 3, Elchin! Yay! Other things.
I believe this cold weather won't remain for a long time.
Okay, we're being very dramatic in our reading. I believe this cold weather won't remain for a long time. Like things like that. Very, very dramatic reading of this, which does not, can work for, again, a dramatic reading, but in terms of like speech and like a conversation, probably not the most likely pattern you would expect.
I believe this cold weather won't remain for a long time.
Part of the other issue too is that because we have these lots of breaks, we also have lots of stresses. And again, in general, I think for a lot of us here, we can work on cutting down on the number of stresses, and that's just going to help us kind of link things together more.
I believe this cold weather.
I believe this cold weather won't remain for a long time. I believe this cold weather won't remain for a long time. I believe this cold weather won't remain for a long time. Like you could probably have even just gotten away with one stress on remain. I believe this cold weather won't remain for a long time. Like something like that.
Won't remain for a long time.
Want to hear the one again?
Weather won't remain for a long.
Can you say remain? Won't remain.
Won't remain for.
It's not like a huge thing. You get a little tense on that remain as you get to that end sound, but it's not. It could become way, way more noticeable than that. So I'm just being very nitpicky.
Remain for a long time.
For a long time.
Since now it is spring.
Since now it is spring. I like that movement. Since now it is spring. Good fast D sound linking, and also the it is. Excuse me, going down in the pitch there. I like a lot. That's great.
Now it is spring. The time of the.
So now it is spring. Since now it is spring. Since now it is spring. I think that is an opportunity to go extra high in pitch, just to kind of show off your range.
The time of the year that birds start appearing.
Want to hear birds?
Time of the year that birds start appearing.
Quick note here grammatically. Again, I don't know if you're pulling this from a quote. That is fine, but I would have expected when instead of that. But again, that's a very minor thing. That isn't wrong. It's just my own personal tendency.
The time of the year that.
Want to hear the time of the again?
Now it is spring. The time of the year.
The time of the.
Now it is spring. The time of the year.
Time of the. You're kind of reducing the I sound on time. You're saying like the time of the versus the time of the year, the time of the year. So I would, again, a very minor thing, but I would have kept it more I sound instead of more I, a little sharper. Maybe even tensing your lips, the corners of your lips, just slightly. It's got a slightly sharper sound.
Year that birds start appearing.
Birds.
Of the year that birds start.
Birds. Some of that was the microphone popping because of that B sound that you did. So I might be wrong on this, but it does sound to me like you're a little tense on that R sound on birds. Birds start appearing. Birds started. Do you hear mine? Say like birds 3 times. Like birds, 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 birds. If you find you're doing bird, bird, birds, or like bird, bird, birds, or like things like that, that's a sign that our consonant's getting a little strong. Versus again, it should be more of the birds, birds, birds. Lots of breath coming through.
Appearing. The year that birds start appearing.
Yeah, you can even do a little phrase like birds start appearing, birds start appearing, birds start appearing. Just saying that. And if you find you're doing birds start appearing, like things like that, that's then your consonants are too strong.
People start wearing summer garments.
People start wearing summer garments. I would have gone rising intonation on garments personally. There's nothing wrong with following intonation. That's just how I would have done it. People start wearing summer garments. But yeah, stressing summer garments is not stressed.
People start wearing summer garments.
Summer garments. And yeah, I would go higher pitch on summer, lower pitch on garments personally. Because it's like summer garments, because they start kind of competing with one another for stress.
People start wearing summer garments and so forth.
So forth is not very commonly stressed.
Summer garments and so forth.
And so forth. Like, that's not usually a phrase that's stressed. And so forth. Summer garments and so forth. Usually it's a part that's reduced and it kind of goes down in pitch. Summer garments and so forth. Summer garments and so forth. That's probably a more common pattern for that.
To me, it should.
To me, I think a more common way to do it, like to me, like E, like a fall rise intonation, like a little waver. I think it's a little bit more common for that. Like to me. Or another way you could say that more common one would be like personally.
So forth. To me, it should be called golden period.
We hear golden again. Goal. That O with a dark L. Such a tricky combination.
Golden period. To me, it should be called golden period.
Golden period. Maybe the golden part was actually okay, but the in terms of pitch patterns, golden period. I would have kept goal. That's our high point, and everything else is sliding down. Golden period. Golden period. So I would go a little lower in pitch on a period. Okay. Yes, just some thoughts there for you. Let me know if anything is there that you have questions about. But thank you for sending that file as always. Quick note here also from Edward. When is preferable, though that is correct. Yes, exactly. You can use that. But in general, when's probably going to be the more common word when you're indicating that sort of time. Just want to give a quick reminder too, guys. If you're finding this helpful, we do feedback like this every single day, Monday through Friday, in a group called Mission English, where what you can do is we do a 30-minute live stream where you appear with me on screen. So like I'm right here and you're over there, and then like we like talk to each other and we do exercises and things like that, and it's fun. It's a very informal class. You've never had a class like this, I can guarantee it, and I think you're really going to learn so much from it. Again, the opportunity is called Mission English. If you go to fluentamerican.com/Mission English, you'll be able to see it, or just go to fluentamerican.com. And we're excited because, again, we have so many opportunities coming up. This is our schedule. It's going to be starting in January. So you can see these are all times based on New York, but we're doing 3 slots for each time zone. So, for instance, if 1:30 p.m. New York works best for you, then I can see you in class on Monday, I can see you on Tuesday, and I can see you again on Friday. Or maybe you need that evening time in the U.S. because maybe you're located in Asia and you're best in the morning. So you can join that 8 o'clock p.m. on Monday. That's 8 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday and 8 o'clock p.m. on Thursday, or you can go to all of them. You can go to every single one of these classes. We're also introducing a conversation class that meets on Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. All of this starting in January. All of this I'm super, super excited about, but I would be even more excited about if you were there with us. There's no opportunity better than this for American English, in my humble opinion. Yeah. And Elshin asks, do you think my vowels, placement in dark L? Yeah. Like I said, I think you're doing a great job of getting more breath through and things like that. I think the placement's getting lower. Take a look again at those R sounds. I thought sometimes the R may have gone a little high, but I would be experimenting with pitch, just trying to increase your range there. And I think you'll notice even greater improvements as you continue. But yes, very, very nice work. So super happy about it. Okay, let's take a look at our next file.
Hey everyone, it's Jeff.
All my troubles seem so far away.
Here I am. Okay, alright.
We have arrived at a very special time in our show, which is really kind of hard to describe if you've never been here before, but I'm sure that's going to be a very welcome experience for you. I just ask that you be appreciative and patient and understanding, because the pronunciation that you're about to hear may be a little difficult for you. It may be difficult to understand. It may be difficult to fully comprehend what you are about to witness. And that's okay. There's always times, in all of our lives where we are challenged. We're pushed beyond our limits. And it's in these moments that we are able to go beyond ourselves and reach a level that we may have never ever experienced before in our lives. in our journeys in English, in our journeys maybe even in our first language. I like to think of this more as music, as something that speaks to us universally, no matter whether you studied English for a day, the last 2 hours, we're at the 2-hour mark or more. But without any further ado, I give you the file that will change your life forever. Yeah.
Poor Peter Parker. No mother. No father. No uncle.
Is that him grunting in the background?
All alone. He's not alone. Detonation in T minus 45 seconds. I got this, Peter. Go! No!
I tried to warn you. I tried to warn you in all seriousness of what was about to happen. And you didn't listen to me. And that's what you get. Well, on that note, you've done it again. You have spent another Saturday of your lives for perhaps 2 hours even studying American English pronunciation, but not just that, doing it here with me in the Schwa Mill, where every single Saturday we help you craft your accent. Thank you guys so much for being with me here. If you want to help the stream, some basic things you can do. Just pressing that like button just tells YouTube that, hey, I enjoyed this. I want more people to find this. That is super, super helpful for me. If you know someone learning American English that you think would be interested in sending a file, please let them know as well. Just some super helpful things from my end. Thank you guys. I always appreciate it. I will see you again next week. Same time, 1:30 p.m. New York. We go through these files. These are facts. People are still dumbstruck about what they just saw. In awe. Just in awe of everything. Much like myself. Again, we'll be back next week taking a look at your pronunciation files in American English. Also keep an eye out. I have some videos coming out about some of the gear that I have that I think can be extremely helpful from a pronunciation perspective. Some of it will cost some money. I'm not going to lie about that. Some of it, not everything is free. Sorry, guys. If you want free stuff, just watch the videos on the channel. That's why we're here. There are going to be some free resources available as well. I'm starting off tomorrow with a piece of software that I think is going to completely change how you do pronunciation. It's going to help you turn any video, anything you listen to on your computer into a pronunciation exercise. So get excited about that. Thanks to everyone who joined us for the first time. Almost half of you are here for the first time, which is wild to me. That's great. Hope you guys were not scared away. But everyone take care. I'll see you next Saturday. Have a good day. Have a good night. Good afternoon. And thanks for spending some more time with me here at the Schwa Mill. Take care, guys. Bye.